ethical are not just excellent, are not just delivering you an experience, because everybody in marketing is talking about experience, experience, experience. Frankly speaking, I'm a little bit tired of listening, hearing this type of expression like experience, because it's not telling you the in depth what is important. Now, what I have understood working on field and of course analyzing best theories and practices is that brands that are mythical are brands that are able to deliver you a special meaning for you, something that does have a meaning, which is more than just giving you an experience, because something that does have a meaning for you, be it a motor, could be a motorcycle, you know. Think about you guys, you're from India. And I mean, in India, you have a brand which is Royal Enfield. You all know Royal Enfield. But why should you pay many times more than another usual Indian motorbike to ride a Royal Enfield? Because of the quality of the product? No. Because of the marketing. Let me challenge you. Because of the marketing, I would say they're saying no. You buy that motorbike, and in Europe as well, we buy that motorbike at a very expensive price because it has a special meaning, because it tells us something about being free, tells us something which goes back to maybe our roots, tells us something which is special with the lines, you know. There is something that is giving us meaning. So this is the point. And of course, the consequence is, okay, but how do I, sorry guys, but I see somebody has written me something. Yes. Aspiration value. Well, frankly speaking, I would argue on this definition of aspiration value, because to me, meaning is meaning. I don't think I should have the aspiration to be maybe better or being different. I should have the will to feel that I am doing something which does have a meaning for me. If I am drinking a Guinness beer, I'm doing something special. Do you drink a Guinness beer just because it's a beer? Do you ride a Harley Davidson or a Royal Enfield just because it's a motorbike? Would you buy a Tesla just because it's an electric car? No, you don't do that. You do all these things because there's a meaning there. Yes, I agree. This is the point. This is the point. So meaning is more important than experience, because it talks to our souls. It doesn't just talk to, it talks to our hearts. And that's why brands that are mythical, brands that are able to deliver a special meaning, are brands that to which you're loyal, not just because of a reason, but beyond reason. There is something more than just, you know, appreciating objectively what the product combined with the brand is delivering, is giving you. So this is the watershed, and this is the first takeaway. Don't focus on the product. Don't focus even the experience is not enough. It's okay, but it's not enough. Focus on the meaning. Am I able to give something really meaningful? Now, this is very much true for, you know, B2C products probably. Maybe it's a little bit less true for B2B products, okay? But as for B2B products like special machines, we should substitute the idea of meaning with the idea of value. I could be willing to pay $500,000 for a machine bottling mineral waters, you know. But why am I doing that? Because I know there's a special value, because that machine and the brand combined with that machine are giving me something which is guaranteeing me that, you know, that machine and the brand combined are a special value. In the world of bottling machine, Krone is a phenomenal brand. Is a phenomenal brand. Okay, so moving on to something more important and interesting. What is the good way? What is the best way to convey the value of a mythical brand? And what is creating the connection between myths and brands? Because there is a connection. Unique brands are mythical, and in a way, they're kind of myths in the minds of clients because you create a phenomenal storytelling. Now, in this slide, you see a sentence in English and a sentence in French. Let me explain you why I have created this type of comparison. On the left, you see the greatest anthropologist ever lived, Claude Lévi-Strauss. This man died at 105. Okay. Is the perception of a brand only developed over time? What about the companies which are starting new? The companies that are starting new do have the opportunity to create meaning from scratch, which is at the same time a challenge and an opportunity, of course. How do I create something unique from scratch? Well, by telling a story and by giving meaning from day one. What is, if you had the capacity to went back in times, going back in a sort of flashback, and you do this with brands like Apple, with brands like Nike, with brands like Tesla, and you go back. Tesla is almost 15 years old. I think it's already a 15 years old company. What do these brands have in common? Since day one, or in any case, very quickly, the management of those companies, the entrepreneurs who started up those companies, did have a very clear vision about the story they wanted to tell, the way they wanted to be perceived by the people, and what they wanted to give them in practice, because this is another important takeaway. You do not have a mythical brand without mythical products. You do need, if you want to build a mythical brand, to combine the brand with iconic products. So that's why Nike is, inexplicably combined to the Air Jordan basketball shoes, or Tesla is clearly combined to the Model S, which is so far the most iconic product, and Apple as well, of course, and so on and so forth. Okay. So another important thing, which is inside this slide, is that the founder of Under Armour, which is a very strong brand in the field of sportswear, running, shoes, and so on and so forth, Kevin Plank said, every great brand is like a great story. Now, Lévi-Strauss, who studied his entire life myths, he was an anthropologist. He devoted, the greatest one, he devoted his entire life to the analysis of myths in the history of human beings. And his most important conclusion, which may even look like a banal one, but indeed it's a very, very wise one, is, this is in French, but I translate this into English. A myth is a story, a great story. Okay? Okay, what is making a brand special then? Because now we need to understand the key ingredients of a mythical brand. What are the key ingredients of a mythical brand? Great story. Great, yes. Well, hold on. Let me give you step by step the things that are important, but on condition that I can. Okay. What makes a brand special? Well, number one, love. So the idea that you want to, sorry. So the idea that you have love embedded to the brand. So again, this concept that people are in love beyond reason. Second thing, yes, Avani was saying this idea of targeting. Of course, guys, it's absolutely correct. The thing is, you need to have a special target. You do not create a love mark, actually a mythical brand, if you don't have a clear targeting. That's absolutely true. But what is this concept of love mark now? What is the love mark? The love mark is basically a brand that is turned into a brand with love, okay? Sorry, guys. Hold on for a second, okay? Hold on. I apologize. I need to do one thing. Sorry for a second. Sorry, guys. I'm very sorry, but I have a 3.5-year-old child. Sometimes, sorry, it's much tougher to build up, to raise a child 3 years old, of course, than to build up a unique brand. Believe me. Sorry for that, but you know, this fine. No, just I know it's fine, but okay. So going back, so what is a love mark? A love mark is a mythical brand, and it's a brand based on this idea of having this key ingredient, which is love. This is not a theory of mine. This is one of the most important theories about branding in the last 15 years. The man who theorized this, his name is Kevin Roberts, and LOVEMARK'S is based on this. Okay, thank you, guys. LOVEMARK as a theory is based on this idea that you have many excellent brands, but very few of them are able to make customers fall in love for them. That's the point. And examples of these LOVEMARK'S are brands like Nike, Mini, Tesla, Apple, and so on and so forth. The man who defined this is now 65 years old. His name is Kevin Roberts. He worked on branding his entire life. And he held many excellent brands, which were not LOVEMARK'S, turning into LOVEMARK'S. So how to transform, again, just an excellent brand into a LOVEMARK? Love is the key ingredient. Love is the key ingredient. All you need is love. You know the song, of course, All You Need Is Love, from the Beatles. And why this may sound a little bit obvious, even a little bit banal, but it's not. It's not, because many brands and many managers are just focusing on the performance of the products, just focusing on the fact that the company must be up to the expectations the company is creating in the customer's mind. But many companies are falling short as to the emotional side of this. So I wanted to use a very simple slide. I like this sentence. I think it speaks for itself. So love doesn't make the world go around. Love is what makes the ride worthwhile. Hmm? And in a way, love is what makes the ride worthwhile because it adds meaning, again, to the relationship between, in this case, between the customers and the brands. What else? Respect. The two pillars of a LOVEMARK'S positioning are love and respect. Respect and love together are making the brand a LOVEMARK. Respect, in a way, is love in plain clothes. You can't, this is the other important takeaway of today's lecture. Do I have to first create love and then add respect, or vice versa? None of the twos. You need to do the two things at the same time. Because if you are able to give, to convey a sense of respect, to infuse a sense of respect in the customer's minds with regard to your brand and its products, this is something you do with hard working, every day being coherent to what you're saying and to what you're doing. Think about Starbucks. Starbucks was a LOVEMARK. I dare say now Starbucks is not a LOVEMARK anymore. Why? Because in the beginning, if you went to a Starbucks in New York or if you went to a Starbucks in France, no difference was there. But if you now go to a Starbucks in Milan, we can now go back to normality in a Starbucks in Milan. It's a wonderful place. Like it was in day one in New York. You go to a Starbucks, I went to a Starbucks in Columbus Square, New York, one and a half year ago. And it was terrible. It was super dirty, disgusting. This is about respect. In that moment in time, the brand is losing respect. Why? Because they haven't done their homework, these guys. They should have cleaned and everything should have been impeccably done. So on the one side of the street, if you want, you need to walk and work very hard to gain respect, and even more important, to keep respect at the highest level. But if you just do that as a manager or as an entrepreneur without working on the emotional side, without inspiring the people, giving them something more than just drinking a coffee, more than just drinking a beer, you will be just excellent. This is the difference. Some brands are okay with being just excellent. And by the way, they make good money. Very few brands are not just, they go for the extra mile. If you want to create a LOVEMARK, is in a way like going for the extra mile. You want to be unique. You don't just want to be one of the excellent ones. You want to be unique. And because you want to be unique, you become unique. And then I go straight to the point. Why LOVEMARKs are better than just excellent brands? Well, because they have, from their customers, they have loyalty beyond reason, which means they make more money, by the way, and which means that they have the highest loyalty in the market. So at the end of the day, it's a long path, but it pays back because it's going to give you the best positioning in that market. Now here you see this type of matrix, and this is the only metric I promise you that I'm showing you. And you can see that you have four areas in the matrix, and basically you have on the bottom, on the left, you have the products. This is the area nobody want to be there, low love and low respect as for products. On the left and on the top of the slide, you have the brands. There you see the excellent brands, brands that are generating high respect but low love. On the opposite side, downward and rightward, you have the fads, brands that are able to generate high love but low respect. And on the top, you have the LOVEMARK'S, high love and high respect. Now, let me tell you a story about a fad, because I want to give you an example about the fad. And by the way, the story I'm going to tell you is a story you guys from India can understand very well, because it goes back to a brand that now you're owning with the Tata Group. Now, more than 25 years ago, 30 years ago, Jaguar was a LOVEMARK. Jaguar 30 years ago was the quintessential example of the gentleman driver from England. And I can tell you, it was a super, super Lovemark. Then Ford Motor Company, a great car maker, bought the Jaguar brand and the Jaguar company. And the first thing they did, these guys, was to substitute the engine, which was proudly manufactured in England. Can you imagine? You know, the British. And they substituted that engine with a Ford engine manufactured in Detroit, Michigan, US. And then the first new model, Jaguar branded, was launched in England, and all the car dealers in India, in England, where, you know, they had the new car in their saloon, and the customers, potential customers are coming, British guys, British men, were looking at the car, and they're thinking, oh, but it doesn't look like really a usual Jaguar. It's not that beautiful, the line anymore, but fine. Let's see what's inside. They were opening the front of the car, and inside they were reading Ford Motor Company written on the engine. Can you imagine how disappointing that can be? In that moment in time, Ford was losing respect. There was still love, because if you were a British guy in the early 80s or late 80s, you were in love for Jaguar. Come on. But over years, this went worse and worse, till you guys from Tata bought Jaguar. And I'm not saying what I'm going to say to please you. This is just reality. And Jaguar was turned around because the usual aggressive line of the car was back, because everything was proudly manufactured in England. And then Jaguar now is in the process going back to being a Lovemark again. So this is the story. And what is the takeaway of this story? The takeaway of the story is that nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. You know, victory is temporary and defeat is never fatal, right? So the same is true for branding. So do not forget that you can always navigate, you can always move your brand. Nothing is eternal. It's in our hands. It's in our hands what we do out of the brand. We can turn it into a Lovemark. Then if we start resting on the laurels, we'll lose, and we could go back to being just an excellent brand, or we would enter a decline, maybe being, you know, just a fad. But we can recover. So in a nutshell, this is maybe the most important takeaway of today's lecture. You wanna create a Lovemark, you can do that. You're gonna launch a startup from scratch. You can do that. It's in your hands. You're gonna be the next job you're gonna have after this MBA. Maybe it's gonna be the brand manager of, I don't know, a brand from a large consumer goods company, maybe from Procter & Gamble. Maybe it's just an excellent brand. It's up to you to turn this into a Lovemark. Okay, but what are the Lovemark's peculiarities? So what is really, now I am drilling down into details. So we are investigating in closer details. What are the Lovemark's peculiarities? Well, first of all, a Lovemark is unique. And now this is obvious, but I hope now you have understood what is basically paramount for uniqueness is the idea of love and the idea of meaning for the customers. Second, it's incomparable. What makes a Lovemark incomparable? Well, it's a matter of the mind, because if you're in love for that brand, you do not compare. If you're in love for Michael Jordan, like I was and I am, you can tell me that, you know, LeBron James is better or at the same level of Michael Jordan. And maybe I would admit that in terms of strength, in terms of results, yes, maybe they're equal, but they're not the same. To me, Michael Jordan is unique, and it's not comparable. Then unmistakable. Unmistakable to me is the most important of the three ingredients. Why? Because you do not sell a brand. At the end of the day, in real life, you sell the product combined with the brand. You sell the service combined with the brand. And that's why I told you before that you need the product to be iconic. Now, let me give you two examples of brands that are Lovemarks and whose products are icons in the minds of people. Icon number one, Porsche 911. Porsche is a Lovemark, yes. What about the product? A 911 is a model, is a car, is a Porsche car. Now, what is interesting is that it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Delhi, you could be in Kolkata, you could be in Mumbai, you could be in Shanghai, you could be in Rome, you could be in New York. When you see a 911 passing by, you think, hey, it's a Porsche. Why? Because the line, the aesthetic is unmistakable. Another example, Rolex. Is Rolex a Lovemark? Yes, it is a Lovemark. What about a Rolex Oyster Perpetual? Maybe you do not know, but I can tell you, Rolex every year is manufacturing 1 million watches. It's a huge amount of watches. Some of them are not immediately, something you can say, oh, it's a Rolex, but most of them are. That's the strength of Rolex. If you see somebody with a Rolex at the wrist, even if you have never owned one, you see it and you say, oh, that's a Rolex. Now, okay, guys, what is the takeaway? If you want to make your product unmistakable, do not change the aesthetic too often. The Royal Enfield Desert Storm, for those of you who are passionate for Royal Enfield, you know what I'm talking about. It's a model with a very special shape of a tank, which looks like a drop, and the very special green, which is an olive green color. It's unmistakable. Oh, that's a Royal Enfield Desert Storm. This is what makes the Lovemark performing. The Gucci canvas, of course. Yes, sure. The Gucci canvas. Okay? Is that fine? Good. So now, how to perpetuate a Lovemark? Because now you have understood how to create a Lovemark. Now you have seen what are the key ingredients of a Lovemark. And then now we need to understand how to perpetuate a Lovemark. Oh, it's not a luxury brand, of course. Okay, good point. Well, number one, an example of a Lovemark of a brand that was a Lovemark and now it's not a Lovemark anymore. This is Starbucks. Starbucks was a Lovemark. Okay. Another example of a Lovemark, which is not just a luxury brand, guys. With all due respect, Mini, the car, is not a luxury brand. Mini is a cool brand. Mini, the Mini Morris, the car, but it's not a luxury car because you can buy a Mini in Europe, you can buy a Mini for 18,000 euro. Maybe it's a huge amount of money in India, but it's not a luxury car. Reebok could be now, yes. Mini Cooper, maybe, yeah. For example, Lovemark's, Apple, yes, of course. An iPhone, of course. That's another example. But even Tesla is not a really luxury car because a Tesla is costing $100,000. I mean, Lamborghini is a luxury car. Lamborghini is costing $250,000 at least. Very good point. Does it happen that a brand gets to have the low brand categorization once it's established and famous? The answer is no. Let me answer with a sentence, which is a sentence I found in a very interesting book a Lebanese philosopher and a statistician. His name is Nicholas Nassim Taleb. It's better to be loved by a handful of passionate people than just liked by the thousands. This is the point. You end up in being a LOVEMARK'S right because at the beginning of your history, you decided to be unique. No matter what it takes, you wanted to be unique. Well, no matter what it took, you wanted to be unique. So you wanted to be special for very few ones. I'm not telling you not to sell, but I'm just saying that don't follow the illusion of scaling up immediately, scaling back immediately. Because if you scale up without uniqueness, you don't sell anything, to anybody. Would you buy something you just like? Yes, only if I'm cutting the price. You understand? By the way, the less you're unique, the more you gotta cut your prices to be sold and to be bought, actually. So this is the point. No, the LOVEMARK is not a niche strategy. The LOVEMARK is not a niche strategy. By the way, guys, niche strategy doesn't exist anymore. Let me tell you that straightforwardly. This idea there is coming from strategy, niche, mass. Forget these ideas. Huh? You need to perform in a target. You don't care. At the end of the day, what matters is you make money out of this. You make good money out of this. Okay? So I give you two examples. Rolex, manufacturing 1 million watches in 1 year, making tons of money. Is this about niche? I can tell you, not at all. Rolex is by far having the greatest volume in terms of manufacturing luxury watches worldwide. So you can't tell Rolex is a niche company, but the brand is a LOVEMARK. And then, at the same time, I'll give you another example. Lamborghini. Lamborghini is manufacturing 6,000, 7,000 cars a year. Peanuts in comparison to Porsche, which is manufacturing 300,000 cars a year. But both are LOVEMARK'S. Both are LOVEMARK'S. So volume has nothing to do with the idea of LOVEMARK'S. One thing is right in the observation, though. It's easier to be a LOVEMARK'S when you are having the capacity to deliver meaning. Volumes has nothing to do. What is easier, what is making your life easier is if you're able to add meaning, not if you're able to add volumes. Okay? That's all. Can LOVEMARK'S be sports team? Can transfer whatever? No, the answer is no, because Ronaldo is a LOVEMARK. Juventus could be a LOVEMARK for the fans of Juventus, but this is not depending on the fact that you have Ronaldo in the team or you don't have Ronaldo in the team. Can different classes of societies have different LOVEMARK? Can you explain me that better? Okay, yes. Look, good point, actually. It is possible that middle class people belonging to middle class do have different LOVEMARK'S than people belonging to high net worth individuals. It is possible that old money's families do find meaning and dreams in some brands that people that are just not be born rich, and they have different dreams. It is correct that different people can have different LOVEMARK'S, but do not just stick to this idea of social classes. What matters is that you can find meaning into something. The idea that is always correct, not to be forgotten, is target. You can be a LOVEMARK for a certain target, and maybe another target is not perceiving you as a LOVEMARK. What is true is that some LOVEMARK'S are really so powerful. Think about Roger Federer in tennis, Rolex, that everybody is thinking of them like LOVEMARK'S. Look, it is correct that sometimes you have that brands like Google or brands like Apple are love marks. But then let me play the devil's advocate here. Do you tell your friend, hey, I'm going to buy an Apple? Or you tell your friend, hey, I'm going to buy an iPhone? You tell your friend, I'm going to buy an iPhone. So in your mind, the low mark, actually, the iconic product is the iPhone. And you have this type of endorsement from the Apple brand in the back, of course, which is very powerful. So it's like if Apple is infusing all the iconic products with this power of love. Hmm? Wow, guys. Okay, I'm trying to answer all the. Yes, Harry Potter definitely is a low mark. But let me tell you another thing. A low mark usually is also divisive. It's an either you love it or you hate it positioning. Hmm? So I am part of those who love Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. But I'm sure there might be somebody listening to me thinking, this guy is crazy, loving Harry Potter. Come on. I love the Lord of the Rings, you know. So it's divisive. One of the key distinguishing traits of a low mark is usually that it's divisive. I'm not telling you to deliberately being hated from somebody in the market. But if you want to be loved by a target, sometimes the price to pay is that other people don't like you. That's fine. That's fine. It means your positioning is clear, is sound and plain. You don't want to be liked by all the clients. Hmm? Okay, low mark is basically a perception, so it's very subjective. Guys, I have been lecturing for 13 years now. I have been working for 25 years now with companies. This question is very important for me because every time I am reading or listening to such a question, I think we're not doing a good job. Professors, managers, because of course it is subjective. But this is not what marketing is all about. You don't make business out of thinking that every client has a different perception. It is a totally useless reflection. You make business out of probability, which means, fine, perception is subjective. Did I need a professor to tell me that perception is subjective? Come on, guys. Unfortunately, there are professors telling that perception is subjective. You don't need me to tell you that perception is subjective. But I wanted to tell you something which is more important. Yes, perception is subjective, and it's in your hands to create a collective perception. Gathering together a group of people, moving them to action, and buying you. Because you make business out of this, not of thinking, oh, and even worse, sometimes people that are thinking about the fact that perception is subjective thing, they go to a consequence which is false. And then, because perception is individual and because perception is subjective, every customer has a different opinion. Totally wrong. Completely wrong. In a target, you have been able to engage. In a target, you have been able to seduce in a good way. There is a common perception about you and about what you're doing and about what your product is. And that's why that people are taking, those guys belonging to that target are taking the money out of their pockets in order to buy your products. So don't waste time in this type of thinking. Everybody knows, I am thanking the guy who wrote this because it's a very important thing, and thank you, really, thank you for this sentence, because you're young people. Forget this. I mean, you don't need this. So what? Okay, fine. Netflix is a low mark in the OTT industry. Yes, it is. It has become a low mark. And it's also top of mind, which is also interesting. What is a top of mind brand? A top of mind brand is when, you know, everybody's thinking, okay, I want to see, you know, series, fine, Netflix. But do not forget, don't rest on the laurels. Think about iTunes. 7 years, 10 years ago, iTunes was dominant. If you wanted to listen to music, you needed to have an iTunes, you know. And then a bunch of guys in Stockholm, in Sweden, were thinking, hey, why don't we do something different? Why people should pay 99 cents to listen to music legally, of course. Couldn't they just listen to music for free? And every so often there is an advertising. Hey, let's create Spotify. And Spotify disrupted the entire industry, and iTunes has faded away. So even LOVEMARK'S can be attacked and beaten. Okay, so now some sort of, you know, basic golden rules, how to perpetuate the LOVEMARK'S. Because the LOVEMARK can be attacked, what can I do? Number one, you gotta feed love and feed respect. Many of the things I'm gonna tell you guys are very obvious. And some of the things I'm gonna tell you in your mind could resonate in a way like, but this is true for brand. This is true for business. This is true for life. Yes, it is. It is. It's a day-by-day hard working. When I am working with the companies that are clients of mine, it's a hard work to understand what makes a product unique. It's a hard work to find a name which is really, really meaning what the product does, which is unique. It's hard working. And the moment you have invented the product and the brand with it, and you launch them together in the market, you need to tell the story to the client. It can be tiring. And then the day after, you need to feed the respect of the customers. You need to keep on working. Ceaseless, nothing can resist to a ceaseless effort. But everything is fragile when the effort is one off, one off, one off. You need a ceaseless effort. This is what I can tell you. I know very well Rolex. These guys never rest on the laurels. And why I'm saying that? Because they would have all the reasons to rest on the laurels. They make tons of money. Everybody tells them, wow, I want to have your watches. But they don't rest on the laurels. They wake up in the morning, they go to the office, and they think about the future. What's next? What's next? What's next? What should I do? How can I keep on feeding the respect? How can I nurture the brand with love? It's continuous effort. Who officially decides whether a company it's a LOVEMARK or not? Market research. Very good question. Market research. Marketing is a market research business. Marketing without research, market research is chit-chatting about who's the smartest one in the room. It's an exercise of arrogance. Marketing in practical life without market research, it's a pure exercise of arrogance. And it's pretty dangerous because if in the room you have people with marketing knowledge, they know what they're talking about, and they know that marketing is a very powerful weapon. But unfortunately, if in the room there are people that do not have a marketing knowledge, for many reasons that maybe I will tell you when we meet during the MBA, I will tell you when we meet. But there are many people that do believe that marketing is, you know, hey, let's have some fun together, guys. Let's be fancy. Let's be zany. Let's invent something strange. This is not marketing. Marketing is strategy in action. LOVEMARK'S is part of marketing, and branding is based on market research. Marketing is based on market research. Full stop. So second, cultivate a beautiful obsession. I like the guy with the scissor, you know, which is cutting the grass. You need to, if you want to maintain, to perpetuate your LOVEMARK'S positioning, you need to work on performance. You want the 911, Porsche 911, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, the iconic products that are making your brand real in the hands of the customers. those products must be continuously improved. And everything must be there, meaning not just the product, but the service. What about the customer service? What if my 911 is going to be broken? You got to have a customer service which is at the same level of the product. And as the product usually is perceived as being perfect in the mind of the people that are in love. Look, guys, if somebody is in love, it's very easy to disappoint that person because the expectation is very high. So the customer service must be as impeccable as the product. Service recovery must be there. If I am thinking that a Starbucks is a low mark, like I was thinking, and then I am entering the most famous Starbucks, yes, at 8 p.m. Okay, I agree, it's not in the morning, in Columbus Square, New York, and I need to go to the toilet, and the toilet is dirty. In my mind, I am very much disappointed because I didn't enter just the bar, you know? You know what I mean, right? Jealously guard your reputation. Built in a lifetime, over a lifetime, but lost in an instant. Don't. When it comes to low marks, guys, reputation, this is true for everybody. But it's particularly true. It is more true when it comes to low mark. When it comes to a low mark, you gotta guard your reputation. Don't follow others. Get in the lead and stay there. Like the red fish, low marks never follow others. 10 years ago, in Switzerland, a lot of luxury watchmakers were very nervous because they were envisioning the new trend of, the smart watches, the smart watches, right? Don't think that those guys in Switzerland were not thinking about the strategic dilemma. Do we enter the smart watches segment or not? Some of the luxury watchmakers were. Rolex did not. Because this is the golden rule. Never follow others. You lead, you don't follow. If you lead, you cannot follow. Stop. Sometimes the most innovative behavior is not to do anything. But someone is in love with a business. Oh, forgiveness. Yes, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. But I dare say that, Kevin, I dare say that probably this is true for human beings, and it's a good point, and I agree with you. Based on the market research I have implemented in my entire life, when it comes to low marks, disappointment and will to forgive, sometimes I'm not combined together. For sure, many customers that are in love for a product, if they're disappointed, some of them are not willing to forgive. Some could, once, not twice. Once, not twice. Nurture your integrity. Like Nelson Mandela was saying, nurture the integrity of the people, services, and why this is interesting as for the perpetuation of the low marks positioning. I want to quote Howard Schultz, actually, the guy who started up Starbucks. But then he felt he was falling short. Let me tell you the story first. When I am thinking about Howard Schultz, what is striking me is one of his most famous sentences. He used to say, I believe above the line advertising is crucial in order to create brand uniqueness. But I keep on thinking that the day-by-day actions implemented, the day-by-day behaviors of the thousands of people that are working in my company, above all those who are in the front line, those are the most important contributions to the brand uniqueness. So, in a way, these behaviors, the actions of the managers of the company, Above all, if it's a company with a lot of intense relationship with many customers, like retail companies, like, for example, those companies are. Think about Gucci having like 5,000, stores in the world. You need to be able to create a very homogeneous culture in the company, because the people in the front line are brand ambassadors. They're not just there to sell. In the minds of the customers, those people are the company. And this is important to remember. And that's why you need to nurture the integrity. That's the meaning of this Nelson Mandela sentence. People must be consistent, but people working for you must be like you. You want to have a homogeneous culture. Don't fuck the culture. This is what Warren Buffett was saying. Warren Buffett, you buy shares in companies whose culture is strong. Don't fuck the culture. If you screw up the culture, you have ruined everything. Doesn't mean not to tolerate diversity. It means to have a common understanding about what makes us different, and a common understanding about what we should do and what we should not do. This is also important. What we should do and what we should not do. And then improve, improve, and improve. Continuous improvement. Like, why this is important? Because if you keep on improving, you cannot be reached. You cannot be reached. So in many cases, leaders are leaders because they lead and because they keep on improving what they're doing at the same time. You must be resolute in the management of the brand in that direction. Improving the brand, improving the products that are the most iconic products. Porsche 911 is not just an incredibly unique and unmistakable car in terms of aesthetic. It's the most advanced car in terms of technology in the world. One of the most advanced ones. Why? Because the Porsche Research and Development Center never stops improving the technology. So when you buy something like that, same is with the Swarovski, right? Never pull back on service. Service is where transactions are transformed into relationships. Where respect meets love, it is the first moment of truth. What I like about this is services where transactions are transformed in relationships. Now, let me tell you something about that, because we are talking, all these are golden rules that are answers to a common question. How do I perpetuate the Lovemark's position? The meaning of this slide is not to tell you, oh, you're going to be always perfect. That's impossible. Sometimes you have service failure. This is inevitable. Sometimes you have service failure. What is important is that you try always to minimize and to reduce the number of service failures on the one hand. And on the other hand, what is paramount is that the moment there is one service failure, you have effective, fast, empathic service recovery. If I am a customer and there's a service failure and I am angry, and you are able to make me understand, you are the customer service of this mythical brand, this Lovemark. And you are, for example, I am the owner of the 911, then 911 is broken. And the service, this is a failure, but the service is quickly tell me, number one, he's truly telling me, I am sorry for what happened to you, sir. So many companies are not able to truly apologize. This is so stupid that it happens. Second, you gotta listen to the customer when the customer is angry. You gotta listen not with the intent to speak. You're gonna listen with the intent to understand. There's a huge difference between listening with the intent to speak and with a counter observation, and listening with the intent to understand. Third, once you have understood, solve the problem as quick as possible. Fix the car. And fourth, which is very powerful, but those three things must have been done properly. The latest one is Well, send the disappointed client a sort of special reward, a surprise, something even tiny, but a kind thought. Super powerful, proven by market research. Well-done service recovery are bringing the customer, in terms of satisfaction, happiness, who had experienced the service failure, to a level of satisfaction which is higher than the level he had before the shit happened. Very interesting, right? So I'm not telling you to cause failures on purpose, but don't forget this is an opportunity. Okay, that's a good point about what happened when a low mark makes a huge mistake. The question has to do with the idea of resilience. If you have worked over years in a thorough way with persistence, and you have built the low marks, reputation can be lost in the blink of an eye, of course, if something terrible happens. This is something not very nice, but Nike is bigger than, with all due respect, with this idea of Steph Curry. Nike is bigger than that. Tiger Woods was and still is a Nike athlete, but it didn't really damage when the guy had the problem, Tiger Woods. It didn't really damage the brand perception. There is a resilience. What is destroying a low marks positioning is repetition of mistakes. Repetition of mistakes. You need to have an aesthetic which is unmistakable. That's a necessary condition. You can't be sure, okay, but I understand. I agree with you. But in any case, Nike is even bigger than 10 billion, I agree. It was a problem, but not too big not to be fixed. Yes, Nokia was a low market. Nokia now is not a low market anymore. Absolutely true. Going back to the point, yes, you need to be unique. You gotta have unique products. Royal Enfield is a phenomenal brand. Royal Enfield is a legendary brand. But try to imagine Royal Enfield without the Desert Storm motorbike, without the special aesthetic of those motorbikes. You wouldn't sell one motorbike. You gotta have the value in terms of products. Products must be unique. People should look at those products and say, oh, wow, think about a Guinness beer. You know a Guinness beer? It's black and thick, and it's like a cream. You look somebody drinking a Guinness beer, think, oh, that's a Guinness beer. Okay, trust has a lot to do. It's in a way like, with father and son, mother and son. You need to practice what you preach. You need to be coherent. You don't have to lose coherence. Otherwise, you're doomed. Mystery. Do not explain everything. A low mark, a myth, is a story, and you tell a story. You don't explain a story. I'm not playing with words here. If you are explaining everything in a very rational way to customers, you lose mystery. You lose seduction. So I'm not talking about hiding something. This is not the point. I'm talking about the tone of voice, how to tell a story. You got to have a past, a present, and a future. And you need to tell the story from the past, in the present, going into the future to customers. That will follow you. But while telling this story, do not explain everything, because then you're boring, So tell great stories. As I told you, combine the past, the present, the future. Work on dreams. People want to dream. Of course, look, guys, I had to make a choice today. When we meet during the course, I will tell you everything about the brand, from B2B to banking, But today I had to make a selection in 1 hour. Lovemarks is very powerful for B2C, business to consumer, not powerful for business to business, even though some machines can be, even in industry, industrial machines can be sort of Lovemarks. But I don't have time to tell you everything, so. Can we create a hypothetical story just to create a mystery around the brand? Yes, you can. Think about, for example, Ralph Lauren. You know Ralph Lauren, the brand? If you spoke to an American guy about Ralph Lauren, he would say, "Oh yes, Ralph Lauren, come on. White, Anglo, sexy, and pretty. Wasp." The values of Ralph Lauren are, you tell Americans that the roots are from England, there's a sort of fusion between where we come from and the countryside atmosphere, a little bit American elegance, tradition. This is Ralph Lauren. Then you meet Ralph Lauren himself. Ralph Lauren is now an old man, very well-kept guy, very wealthy guy, very elegant guy, but he invented it from scratch. From scratch. Totally. Very important. Make sense of the senses. This is so important if you are into retail. When I am entering a store, for example, entering a Gucci store, it's not just about the bags. It's about the type of light in the store. It's about the smell of the place. It's about the music of the place. It's about the good manners or bad manners of the people that are helping me in the store. It's about the quality of the orange juice I'm offered while waiting for my turn. It's about the quality of the coffee. It's about the cleanliness of the bathrooms. Everything does matter. Senses are crucial. We are not just seeing, we are touching, we're smelling, we're tasting, and we're hearing. This is part of marketing? Yes. Is it about, it's hard work. It's about details, details, details. Okay, nurture scarcity. If you can, nurture scarcity. Now, I'm explaining this. Scarcity, no, good point. Everybody's trying to be environmentally aware this day. Okay, frankly speaking, to be environmentally responsible today is a necessary condition. Either you're environmentally responsible or, depending on the country, in some countries, if you're not eco-responsible, you're out of the game. Scandinavian countries, Germany. In some other countries, if you're not eco-responsible, in the short run, that's fine. In the long run, you're going to be out of the game. So the answer is no. This doesn't make any difference as for the Lovemark's position. You got to have it. Okay, status symbol is not the same thing as Lovemark's is, because status symbol is a specific, I want to buy a Louis Vuitton bag because this is not Lovemark's positioning. Not only in terms of status symbol, it means that I want to have it so because it's a very well-known brand. It means that you are kind of, not you guys, maybe some of you, it doesn't matter. I can be conformist, then I'm going to buy a very well-known brand. But I could be revolutionary. Then I'm gonna buy another unknown brand. For me, that's Lovemark. It will depend on the target. So the point is, it's not that all the status symbols are Lovemarks. Again, it depends on the target. Burger King versus McDonald's. It depends on the target. But let me tell you something about scarcity so that things are clearer. Rolex is manufacturing 1 million watches a year, which is a huge amount of watches. But the demand for watches, as for Rolex, is a bit higher than the volumes manufactured. A very famous entrepreneur many years ago, Enzo Ferrari, the founder of Ferrari, Ferrari, the cars, used to say, it's always better to have one car less manufactured than the customers want. This is the principle of scarcity. It's not about limited edition, manufacturing 10 cars. The concept of Lovemark's when it comes to scarcity is this, what Enzo Ferrari said. You know what? Always better to manufacture one car less than the market demand. One car less, not 1,000 car less. You know what I mean? Okay, the last but not the least. I really reflected probably a couple of years about that. I'm not exaggerating. Is this Lovemark's positioning all about luxury? And I said, no, it's just not about luxury. This is not the point. Because, you know, some of you maybe studied the Maslow theory. I do not believe the Maslow theory is correct. I do not believe, because it is a sort of too rational approach. And maybe, you know, this was the norm in the 50s, when 60, 70 years ago, when we could reduce human beings in certain pieces, so that first layer is you survive, second layer is that once you have survived, you want to have television, you know, and then you can read, and then. But I have traveled all around the world, and I've seen many places, many people, and I've never seen that. I've seen that people, even if they're poor, they behave in the way this proverb, which is from China, and it dates back to more than 2,000 years ago. If you have 2 pennies, spend one on bread to give you life, and one on a flower to give meaning to your life. This is the instinct of human beings. We don't just want to survive because we feel the humiliation of just surviving. That's why we want to live. And the moment we live, just the moment we stop thinking about the preoccupation of having bread on the table, 1 second later, we buy a flower. Why this is useful for Lovemark's? Because it tells you that do not limit Lovemark's to luxury and exclusivity. You would be wrong. You would be wrong. Because even if I'm gonna drink a coffee at Starbucks, and in my country it's super expensive, 1.5 euro, I am willing to pay 1.5 euro because that gives me meaning. And I'm not paying it double than the usual price because I'm richer. I'm paying it because I think it gives me meaning. Okay, guys, we are basically finished. So Q&A. No questions? Really? Oh, come on. Are you still there? You sure? Okay, then. Okay, fine. Then I hope you liked it. Okay, sorry. Monopoly brands can be a Lovemark. Why not? Yeah. Yes, Fabulous India could be an example. Why not? Yes, sure. I bought myself a scarf for my wife, Fabulous India. Okay. So I hope it was useful, and I hope above all it gave you the possibility to ask you more questions. And thank you. Sure, you can. Intel, yes. And I hope now you have not just answers in your mind, but you understand what you should do or what you should not do. That's important. And this is the beginning, of course, of the pathways for branding, because branding has a lot of other things, like, again, market research, technicalities. It's a universe. And, you know, excellence is based on commanding over things in terms of logics, in terms of tools, in terms of vision. That's what makes people excellent. So cultivate your interests and don't just stick to books. Observe reality and challenge yourself. And this is the best way to improve yourself in terms of understanding marketing, understanding branding. I never met in my life marketing people, marketing guys who were excellent just because they were theorizing. They were excellent because they were observing. Empiricism is the fundament, is the pillar of excellence in marketing. Observation, best practices, sound and plain understanding, and actions. Guys, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see each other very soon, okay? Take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you very soon. All the best. Ciao.